It's a brand new month of December 2020, first day of December, a Tuesday morning, and welcome to a market review where we bring you developments in the financial and capital market as it relates to the economy. Today we take a look at developments in the fixed income and bonds markets, and our focus will be towards a liberalized, unified FX regime in Nigeria. Let's give you an outline of what we'll be discussing today. We'll take a review of the fixed income markets for last week and the latest development from the Central Bank of Nigeria simplifying Diaspora remittances. We'll take excerpts from the FMDQ Financial Center for Sustainability PriceWaterHouse Coopers capacity building webinar, and we'll now look at our focus for today, which is towards unified and liberalized FX regime in Nigeria. And this is courtesy Zedcrest Capital, published on Proshi and Adjust Financial, leading financial information hub. Let's take a look at what happened in the fixed income and bonds market last week. First, the FGN bonds, Federal Government of Nigeria bonds market closed last week on a negative note, with yields creeping upwards following reduced demand amidst supply from the local players. Yields expanded by 22 basis points on the average across the benchmark bond curve, with the short-end yields retreating the most in reaction to the gradual increase in short-term money market rates. Select maturities at the mid-2026 and 2028, as well as the long end of 2049s, were not left out as sellers continue to search for bids which continue to shy away, as has been noted all week. Zedcrest expects the market to open this week with the same weak sentiments, with some pockets of demand expected on select maturities as institutional investors with residual outstanding liquidity cherry pick from the secondary market. In the treasury bill space, appetite for almost securities by local banks took a hit as bids for the long-dated maturities pulled back by 10 basis points. Supply of the OMO bills maturing in October and November 2021 improved during trading, with local banks offering at 0.15% levels as bids remained shy. Mid-dated February 2021 papers remained pressured, with demand seen from a few offshore players at the end of the OMO curve. Consequently, rates across the benchmark OMO curve weakened by 8 basis points on the average. Zedcrest expects the market to remain weak as apathy for rates at these low levels remains following dropping system liquidity in the form of FX intervention flows, rising by 50 basis points to close last week at 1.25% and 1.50% for the overnight buyback and overnight rates, respectively. This is on the back of reduced system liquidity, which opened the day at 13.28% lower, at 295.48 billion naira. Zedcrest expects rates to remain in the lower single digits, opening the week as banks receive inflows from foreign exchange funding refunds and OMO maturities. Let's take a look at the FX markets. It's been a big discussion point over time. Volumes traded in the investors and exporters FX market, and it dropped by 52% day on day in a still relatively active trading session. The greenback change crossed above the 400 naira to dollar mark for the first time since June this year, as demand pressures continue to heat up the market. This came in despite the Central Bank of Nigeria providing some dollar supply to the foreign portfolio investors at a new rate of 292 naira 25 kobo to dollar. In addition, the CBN issued a circular to market participants revising the rates at the various official market segments upward in a move effectively devaluing the naira for the third time this year. The revised rates take effect from Monday, November 30th, yesterday, amidst the little supply. Cash and transfer rates lost a further 5 naira on the average to close at 495 naira to a dollar and 405 naira to a dollar respectively. Let's take a look at the Eurobonds, with global oil prices retained its recent gains after the short slump seen over the Thanksgiving holiday in the US. The Nigeria sovereign papers traded with mixed sentiments in the last session of the week. The yield curve remained relatively unmoved as demand remained at the short-term and short end of the curve countered the selling pressure seen at the long end. Angola sovereign bonds continue to lead the pack in gains in the sub-Saharan Africa space as his finance minister reiterated his commitment to maintaining positive credit risk for the oil-producing nation. The Nigerian corporates saw sustained interest in some of the tracked papers, especially the Fidelity Bank 2022s, which gained 8 basis points day on day. In an effort to liberalize and simplify and improve the receipt and administration of diaspora remittances into Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria wished and announced to the public as follows. Beneficiaries of diaspora remittances through the International Money Transfer Operators IMTOs shall henceforth receive such inflows in foreign currency through the designated bank of their choice. Such recipients of remittances may have the option of receiving these funds in foreign currency cash, that's US dollars, or into their ordinary domiciliary account. These changes are necessary to deepen the foreign exchange market, provide more liquidity, and create more transparency in administration of the diaspora remittances into Nigeria. In addition, these changes will help finance a future stream of investments opportunities for Nigeria in the diaspora, while also guaranteeing that recipients of the remittances will receive a market-reflective exchange rate for their inflows. Indeed, the central bank is taking some steps responding to the need to drive a liberalized foreign exchange market regime. Let's go on to the FMDQ group, which is the major player in the fixed income debt market. As part of efforts understanding the role that sustainable financing will play in the future, the Financial Center for Sustainability in Lagos, domiciled in the FMDQ group, held in collaboration with the PriceWaterHouse Coopers Nigeria a webinar session as part of the Market Education and Sensitization Campaign initiative of the Research, Education and Engagement thematic areas of the Financial Center for Sustainability. The session, through expert discussions and deliberations, sought to promote the consideration, adoption and integration of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals into the formulation of developmental policies and strategies to ensure a more sustainable, safer, and increasingly prosperous economy for all Nigerians. While delivering her opening remarks, Her Excellency Mrs. Adejoke Orelokpe Adefulire, Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, who was represented by the Senior Technical Advisor, Dr. Bala Yusuf Yunusa, stated that the federal government of Nigeria has since established institutional mechanisms to support effective implementation of the SDGs. The Office of the SSA to the President was established in 2016 with the mandate of strategic planning, coordination and guidance, advocacy, representation, and partnership building, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting, as well as resource work implementation. Several strategic initiatives have since been implemented. They include a database mapping that enables a complete realignment of the national statistical system for the requirements and indicators of the SDGs. It has also attempted to integrate the 3 dimensions of the SDGs, which is economic, social, and environmental, to Nigeria's economic recovery and growth plan from 2017 to 2020, which is elapsing this year. The office is working closely with the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget, and National Planning to integrate the SDGs in the new National Development Plan 2021 to 2025, as well as Nigeria's 2050 agenda. In addition to this, the process for integration of the national financing framework to support the implementation of the SDGs actualization in Nigeria has commenced in earnest. Also speaking, Mrs. Sholakwe Hamon, Senior Special Advisor to the Executive Governor of Lagos State on SDGs and Investment, delivered her take on SDG initiatives for Lagos State, stating that government cannot afford to rely on themselves and their budgets to get what needs to be done. It must be the job of everyone. Businesses have to be realigned, and not just in terms of corporate social responsibility, but a complete realignment of the mindset and approach to business and leveraging innovation, which is part of the SDG 9 goal, to deliver solutions that will address the developmental challenges that the country is facing, which is very critical at this time. The SDG framework, according to her, provides a role for everyone starting from the national level to municipalities, businesses, non-governmental organizations, and individuals. There's been a lot of collaborations on the national level, and Lagos State has been working closely with the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs and the United Nations Development Programme to develop a common viewpoint, working on the National Voluntary Review and the Framework for Sustainable Finance. Speaking further, she said there needs to be increased collaboration at the state level, and Lagos State has established the Lagos State Volunteer Corps as a platform to encourage Lagosians to participate and be involved in the activities of the SDGs 17 goals over the next decade. Dr. Andrew Nevin, partner and chief economist, PwC West Africa, and thematic lead, research, education, and engagement for the Financial Center for Sustainability, added that it is time Nigeria moves from a gross domestic product lens to an SDG lens to know if progress is being made in the country. Also, the executive secretary of the Financial Center for Sustainability, Mr. Emmanuel Etade, stated that the SDGs are not just about philanthropy or doing good. They represent a $12 trillion market opportunity available for the public and private sector organizations to exploit. The SDGs, according to him, cover broad challenges, which include driving economic inclusion, the diminishing natural resources, the geopolitical instability, environmental degradation, and the multifaceted impacts of climate change. They define the agenda for an inclusive economic growth through to 2030. For him, the impact of these goals on global sustainable development will largely depend on the world's ability to transition to new governance for sustainability that recognizes the roles and responsibilities of local and subnational governments as well as corporates. Therefore, he said the onus lies on both public and private sector to organize, collaborate, and address these environmental, social, and economic issues in the country. Those are very, very incisive words from the need to drive sustainable development goals in Nigeria, and it has become imperative considering the fact that 2030 is just 9 years from this year, as we are in December 2020. Let's take a look at what has been a very interesting discussion and dominating the space, particularly the fixed income and debt markets this year. The need for a unified and liberalized FX regime in Nigeria. Particularly at the beginning of this week, the big story has been the soaring rate of the Nigerian FX parallel market, which shows that the current rate is about 500 naira to $1 compared to the official rate, which is pegged around 380 naira to $1, showing the disparity between the official and parallel market. While the discussion on the precision of the devaluation is on a major takeaway, the consensus is that there's a need for Nigeria to take the bold step of unifying and liberalizing the FX regime, which the central bank agrees with, taking from the last weekend speech of Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, at the 55th Annual Bankers Dinner hosted by the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Nigeria. What is the benefit, what is the value of taking this step, unifying and, of course, liberalizing our FX regime? First is that it will attract more investors into the market. Foreign portfolio investors particularly watch and are very comfortable when this market is liberalized and it is very clear what's happening. So we can attract even foreign direct investments, as experts and business leaders speak about, if we take that bold step to fully liberalize it. And of course, we know the managed floating regime, but talk of full liberalization and unification of the rates. The second aspect is that it brings more stability to the foreign exchange regime. Yes, stability is very important because when there is stability, definitely we can understand the direction of the foreign exchange regime and how investors can plan around it. The third aspect is that it brings predictability to the FX regime. The inability to predict has really brought a lot of concerns, And like I said earlier, investors, particularly foreign portfolio investors, this year were not so active, but just came back when they saw some level of intervention and direction from the Central Bank of Nigeria. So we need that predictability too in the foreign exchange market, which keys into that unification because the disparity is there. And the next is addressing the excesses of speculators. For those that watched last week, the central bank governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, exactly a week from today, addressed the media after the Launch Policy Committee meeting and responding to questions, brought to the fore again the activities of speculators who have continued to create for him concerns and issues in terms of the foreign exchange markets, particularly the power market. So that regime of unification and, of course, effective liberalization should address the excesses of speculators who seek to take advantage and create misinformation. The next is tackling corruption, which is perpetrated by arbitrage. So, for example, if you buy at 380 and sell at 500, you can see that arbitrage and that disparity. It is something that the central bank and, of course, all key authorities have been hammering on, and analysts that there's need to address that arbitrage. And with Central Bank of Nigeria taking that step and saying, yes, we are making that move, it will become very important for our FX regime. The next is ensuring transparency and accountability, particularly in FX management and allocation. There has been those concerns and raised even by the leading public-private sector economic advocacy group, the Nigeria Economic Summit Group. They raised their concerns this year where they called for a more transparent and accountable strategy in terms of FX management and allocation from the central bank monetary authorities. So it's very important because it boosts confidence, it creates that stability as expected, and builds that trust, because trust is one very important currency in understanding and engaging in the Nigerian foreign exchange markets. We also understand the pressures the central bank is facing with scarce resources. Currently, our foreign reserves is $35 billion, and the central bank governor told stakeholders last weekend that that can cover only 8 months of imports. So definitely the management of the foreign exchange market and the foreign reserves also is a very critical step, and how that is managed becomes very important. But one of the big takeaways too in terms of the foreign exchange is what has happened in the way the central bank has carried out its operations, particularly in the investors and exporters window. As the Central Bank of the Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, informed stakeholders at the 55th Annual Bankers' Dinner, between April and November 2020, with clear interventions and sanitization of the processes, the market has enjoyed at least $150 million intervention daily in that period, bringing some level of stability in the market. So take a look at how that has been happening, and take a look at much more strategy in terms of unifying and liberalizing the FX market, and imagine how the economy will benefit from it. So definitely, it's a way to go, and we hope that that process of achieving it becomes very important. As you know, in a recession time, in a challenging revenue phase, we must make efforts to manage our limited resources effectively to ensure that it is well appropriated, well managed, and allocated to sectors in a very transparent manner, in a manner that is befitting, and of course, boost confidence for investors, and we can continue to have a vibrant financial and capital market that creates opportunities, wealth, and stability for economy. So, it won't be too long. We hope that this will happen, and we'll see more investments coming to the economy, and we'll see more activities. We'll quickly come out from this recession, get on to growth, and real growth that creates jobs and lifts millions from poverty. That's the goal as we face this challenging phase. That'll be all for today's edition of the Market Review. You can visit our website, www.prochange.com, to watch our videos, read our news stories and articles. Also note that for our fixed income and bonds market space, if you go to our website, on the right side of the bar, if you scroll up, you will see fixed income and bonds. Click on it and you'll see all the latest stories and activities in the markets, from the FX to the bonds, debt markets, to the fixed income money market. All the activities happening there are well covered, including the activities of the FMDQ exchange. Don't forget that if you have any comments around how we can boost and achieve a unified and liberalized foreign exchange markets that attracts more investments, you can send your views and comments to news@prochange.com. We'll be available to respond to you and engage appropriately. Please, to all our viewers, the public, don't forget that in this period, as we are in December, gearing up for the festive season and preparing for 2021, there are platforms coming out and will want to reap you of your investments. These are platforms that are not registered or regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Please do not put your hard-earned investment into very risky platforms that could reap you of your savings, particularly your savings that you want to use to prepare and get something good for this season. Rather, go to the market, capital market, which is credible, tested, and durable for over the years, that you can always make your inquiries or even request for retribution through the processes that's well regulated. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.